Choices office hours for Friday, September the 6th. This is who is joining me today. I'd like to specifically welcome Savannah. She is a new MnCHOICES help desk person. Welcome, Savannah. Thanks for joining the team. When people answer questions, they will say their name so that you know, and this gives you a reference to who they are. So as you know, this session is being recorded. It's being recorded so that you can listen to it later as a YouTube video. All participants are muted. We'll have you raise your hand to ask a question, and then we'll take you in the order in the queue. We'll call on you, and when we call on you, we'll automatically unmute you so you can go ahead once we call on you and ask your question. As you know, we just want to always review our ground rules because we want to really improve the call for everyone who's participating. So we really want to start this call with an atmosphere of good intentions and respect. We're participating in this call to provide you information your agency needs, and you're participating and attending in this call to learn and ask questions so that you can help your agency. So we're going to ask you to only ask one question at a time. And then we're also going to ask you if you submitted a question in a help desk ticket to not ask it here, because the reason why it hasn't been answered yet is because there's a team of people working on the answer, and they will get back to you shortly. So you can find the office hours conference call schedule on the Partner Link Mentor page under office hours calls. As you know, there's a new format to office hours as far as you getting information. And so the email that you got gave you a link to sign up for all the calls. And then once you've done that, then you will get a link from WebEx on the day before the call that will give you the office hours session. You can also submit your office hours questions ahead of time. I pull them about 2 weeks prior to office hours and we review them so we can make sure that content people are wondering about is included in a call. So here's our agenda today. We're going to have the help desk do a little bit of presentation, then we're going to do training and other updates, then we're going to go to system updates and questions. We've got a full agenda today, so I'm going to try to be paying attention to time and being respectful of your time so we can save some time at the end for questions. So Kong, I'm going to have you go ahead and I'm going to move to the next slide since we tried to put some of your presentation material in. Will that work for you or do you want to just be here for a moment?
Yeah, you can go on to the next slide. I'm just going to start with the next slide
Okay.
there. Yep. All right. Hello, everyone. I don't have much, just a couple of trendy things that we've been hearing at the help desk. On the screen here is about the eDocs form here. We received some reports that some PDFs within the person's attachments couldn't be viewed while others are viewable, and they were having to download these to view them. Looking into it, we found that the PDFs were the fillable eDoc forms that were completed and uploaded as an attachment into MnCHOICES. So for these PDFs, because they are fillable, per instructions on eDoc is that they will not open in your browser. So instead, you have to download the PDF and open it with the Adobe Reader or Acrobat. The same process is required even if it's loaded to MnCHOICES. So if you want to be able to view these documents without the need to download, you can save a copy of the PDF using Print to PDF, which will save a copy to your computer. It will no longer be fillable, and then you can upload that copy to MnCHOICES. All right, so I'm done with this slide. Let's see the next slide here. All right, so this next issue here, we've seen a lot of reported duplicate person records. The vendor is currently investigating, but have confirmed that the duplicates are being created when users are importing records and encountering an error. You can see the error on that picture there, the red error there, service unavailable. When they see that, if they click, sometimes they click the red X there, sometimes they just click import again, but regardless, if you click import again, it has the potential to create a duplicate record. So the vendor has advised that upon encountering this error, exit this the new person dialog box. You can exit by clicking outside of it or refreshing the page. And then you want to search the person again to make sure the person hasn't been added already. And if the person hasn't been added, then you would retry importing the person again. This issue isn't happening all the time. Currently, it appears to be random and intermittent. The vendor is investigating, but at this time, we just want you to be aware so we can prevent adding duplicates. The next thing on isn't on the presentation here, but with the last released in September, FEI has done some memory optimization, which should help with the prolonged loading times that users have been reporting, also known as the long blue spinners. We've asked a few agencies following the update, and we've gotten some mixed feedback. So some are saying that it's gotten a lot better. They're no longer seeing the loading times, and then a couple are saying it's still the same. So um, I want you guys to keep in mind that because MnCHOICES is a web application, it does rely on a constant internet connection when you're in online mode. So while working in MnCHOICES, if you lose internet or if it gets low, you will experience issues such as the long loading times and even saving errors. So as you know, we can't expect that internet will always be good to us. So have your users keep that in mind, and they should save often, especially in areas where they're inputting extensive narratives. Please continue to report these to the help desk if you feel that it's not because of internet issues. You'll want to include details that the vendor could use to locate the error in their log and to help with the investigation. So details like the person and form ID, date and time it occurred, and the area in the application that it occurred in. That's it from me. Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to go to another slide, and Heather, would you mind speaking to this one? Otherwise, I can. See if you get yourself off mute.
Yeah, I can talk about this one. So with the release that occurred in August, the appeal rights have come off of the assessment summary. So we are asking that users go to the Help Center and then find the historical MnCHOICES support plan required information PDF, and then send that along with your assessment summary to the person. That way they get all of their appeal rights, and also if there are other things missing, perhaps the interpreter information, the language information, or the civil rights notice. That way they're getting all of those right blocks and have everything that they need.
Thank you. I'm going to take a moment and give you some quick training and other key updates, and then we will move on to other items. So I'd just like to make people aware of e-list announcements that have went out. And so I'm not going to go about this in great detail, but to let you know that there was an e-list about assisted living verification code requirements. And on this slide specifically, just there is a requirement for housing counseling and a reminder that people who are considering moving, that you should not wait until they're ready to sign a lease, but to remember to work on that earlier rather than when it comes to lease signing. And then secondly, this also speaks to the section over here, which says existing and potential residents will no longer need to get a verification code from senior linkage line before signing a lease. But again, then they had put this disclaimer here about if not to wait until a person signs a lease to work on housing counseling. The other piece I wanted to let you know of is we're updating Step 2 state plan services to make sure we highlight CFSS. We were looking at the CFSS training as doing that, and now that the CFSS manual is getting closer to being published, we will add that to it as well. So we have removed the PCA content. I know sometimes people are looking for CLUs, and I wanted to make you aware of some work that's being done in aging to create elderly waiver foundation modules, Foundation 1 and 2. And so these are available, and you could use them for CLUs. And you can find it in the Older Adult Programs Learning Center. Also, there have been some additions to CFSS training. So there's CFSS policy for new lead agency staff. So if you have some new staff that need some continuing learning credits for certification, this might be a good one. For agency staff who have worked with PCA in the past and want to just understand the difference, there's also a community first lead agency for lead agencies that kind of looks at the difference for people who already know that program, and for people, again, assessors who have maybe been certified for a while and need a recertification CLU, this might be another good one. I also wanted to let you know that the practice guide for HRA2 has been updated. That is mentioned also in the release. We know that you have asked what changes have been made. And so we tried to do it both by page and types of changes. And so this is the list of then what has been updated. And one of the questions we often get asked is about the medication section, and it includes attach a medications list as directions, and it references attachments for naming convention for the SMART guide as well. The SMART Guide HRA 4 also has been updated. And again, you can see kind of here what's been added, specifically what's been added around waiver provider sections, how to add a waiver provider. And we also wanted to make sure folks were aware of that for formal support, 0 is an allowable rate value if you're having somebody provide a service that as a neighbor, caregiver, other ways that you can choose to do 0. So I'm going to go ahead and move to system updates. And we're going to kind of go through this agenda, what we're doing to prepare for sunsetting of the legacy applications, the outage schedule, other changes that were not in the CFD but have been made recently, release fixes from the last release, and then new additions to the CFD, and then your pre-submitted questions. So as you all know, effective October 1st, the MnCHOICES 1.0 computer applications, MnCHOICES assessment and support plan will be retired. They will be turned off. We will not have access to those systems. We also let people know that the legacy assessment support planning tools, that there are going to be some eDocs that will also be retiring. And so we wanted you to be aware of those as well, and that they'll be removed from the DHS website. The reason for this is an expectation that you'll be doing your work in the application, therefore you won't need these documents. This is the list of documents that I had at the time. There may be some changes to these, but at the time that we created this is the list of eDocs that we are looking at retiring. And here's some others. So the one piece that you have seen us kind of spend some time on right now is to talk to you about historical information. We've been talking about it for a while, but it isn't something that maybe we all have been paying a lot of attention to, but now as the systems get ready to retire, we're paying more attention to. The question that we often get asked is, basically all your person records need to be added to the revised MnCHOICES, so closed information comes over as a PDF in October, as well as all your assessments, CSPs, CSSPs, items like that have to be closed. And again, the person record has to be there. So you got an email not that long ago that said something about a September 15th date, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but it's for issues where you see Swindex, SW index IDs don't match, and when they don't match, we'd like you to get them into the help desk as soon as you can, because the systems will be retired as of October 1st, and then the help desk won't be able to resolve those issues, which is why we set the 15th deadline. So once you create a person record, if you have closed items and you don't have a person record, then they'll be able to be loaded. If for some reason that person record Swindex ID doesn't match the legacy system, then that's when items aren't loaded. And so that's what we're asking you also to pay attention to. So how do you monitor to see if people are closing their forms? You can go to the assessment queue and legacy MnCHOICES assessment. In the support plan, if you go to the My Plans tab, you can view My Agency. You can look at everything that is complete or open. It'll give you a huge list, and then you can sort by plan owner so that you can see the status of forms and if things are being closed. So as of July 1st, users were to do all their MnCHOICES assessment work in MnCHOICES. And however, if a user completed an assessment in 1.0 and you need to do an eligibility update after September 30th, we're hearing those questions, what do we do? And so what we wanted to do is provide you this information. So if you need to do an eligibility update, you'll need to locate a person in the revised MnCHOICES application, confirm that their health information has loaded, create a new form in MnCHOICES, and for those eligibility updates, you'll pick not a current recipient and initial assessment. You can make, and then prior to the system retirement, if you think there's going to be an eligibility update and you want to make sure that you have the old assessment information, you could make a PDF of the legacy assessment if you'd like to and attach it to the person record in MnCHOICES just to ensure that you're ready in case you need to follow these steps. And then another question that was asked is how do we update support plan and rate tools that were completed in the retired system is another question that we've been getting. And that's why we have the Smart Guide support plan with the transition reason in the Help Center. It will walk you through it. And so you will use that reason for support plan transition plan. And then you can go ahead and do your work there. So yeah, so it's saying when MnCHOICES assessment is in a legacy and a new support plan is needed, then you'll create a new support plan, reason for support plan, transition plan. So again, I really recommend when you have these questions that you go look at the Smart Guides for your directions. And they can be found in the Help Center in the application. So transition plans in the revised MnCHOICES, what happens if they require an update? So transition plans can't be revised. Instead, you'll go back to create new form support plan and put in a transition plan and create a new support plan using the exact language from the original support plan. And so you can put up split screen and copy and paste in, but if you have to update a transition plan, this is the way that you have to do it. Starting October, we will be moving to Thursday outages for the release schedule. So our next release is on September 20, and then after that, we move from a Friday to a Thursday at the end of the day. So, and then we have regularly scheduled monthly maintenance that also occurs, and that is also on the schedule that is listed here. And you can go to the MnCHOICES outage schedule to review each of the dates. So other changes not listed in the CFD. We wanted to take an opportunity to let you know of releases that occurred in this last release, so in the August release, that weren't in the CFD, so that you are aware of the change. So in the drop-down menu, I am care coordinator and need the staying healthy section. To eliminate duplicate work for counties and tribal nations serving as delegates, they can complete one assessment and one support plan. And so the changes that were made is that other options were added to that drop-down menu so that they can choose the staying healthy and get the notice of action, the assessment program acknowledgements, and signature sections. When the assessment is complete, the user will then create the support plan MCO MnCHOICES assessment to ensure that the MCO information for the support plan is also captured. So they're using the staying healthy section to make sure the HRA information is captured in the assessment and creating the support plan MCO MnCHOICES assessment to ensure the other requirements of the support plan are there as well. So we're going to talk through this just a little bit. So I'm the care coordinator and need the staying healthy section. If you're fulfilling the care coordinator and certified assessor role and you work for a county or a tribe, then you'll select yes, staying healthy, notice of action, and signatures. And so this option is typically used for people accessing disability waivers. The staying healthy section is available and the notice of action and signature sections will populate. Okay. If you're not a care coordinator, you can select no, and then the staying healthy section will not populate, but the notice of action signature will populate. If you're a certified assessor and coordinator and you work for an MCO or an MCO delegate only, then you'll select staying healthy only. And when you do that, the staying healthy section is available. And for the notice of action and signature page, they won't populate because care coordinators use MCO specific forms. We have had a bunch of questions about these dual roles, and so we put together 4 questions and their answers to hopefully assist you in this effort. So what happens when a dual role case manager care coordinator goes to 2? So these are really about what happens when you've done it as a dual role and then it gets split and it's no longer a dual role. And what you're going to start seeing is a pattern to the responses. So I will go through them. So what happens when there's a dual role and then it goes to 2 different people later, right? Like, so no longer is one person doing it, now 2 people are doing it. If the MCO completed a MnCHOICES assessment with the staying healthy and the MCO MnCHOICES assessment support plan, a person, if they're transferred to a new MCO, then the person will be assigned a new care coordinator. To document the transfer, the new care coordinator will review the prior assessment and support plan information and create a new HRA, transitional HRA, and a support plan HRA. Since the waiver case manager would remain the same, they could continue to do their work using the support plan MCO MnCHOICES assessment until the next assessment. What if the member has 2 different individuals fulfilling these roles and it goes to a dual role? And that's basically if a person has 2 assessments and 2 support plans, and the user will continue to do their work as they've done before. If a member already has a waiver assessment completed and their waiver manager is now their care coordinator, what is completed for the dual care coordinator case manager to complete the staying healthy and MCO support plans? And so if the person has 2 assessments, and then the person will then always have 2 support plans. So that's kind of the indicator. The person has 2 assessments, they have 2 support plans, and they'll have to continue working through the process until the next reassessment, and then they could switch to having the dual role and only having to create one. What if the member has 2 different individuals fulfilling these roles and goes to dual? Again, if the person has 2 assessments, then they have to have 2 support plans. And then the next time for reassessment, when that occurs, then they could go to 1. So, like I said, you can kind of hear a pattern here. Based on what documents are created on the front end will determine the documents that are for assessment will determine the documents that are created for support plan. So the other change that is done is that signatures have been added to the MnCHOICES assessment to eliminate the need for the DHS 2727 as a separate document for getting assessment signatures. And so there have been 2 sections added, the assessment and program acknowledgements and signatures. And I know that you've gotten instructions on these in an email. So this is just letting you know that that section has indeed been added and that you can do both e-signatures and handwritten signatures in the assessment. Oh, so what we did then is we updated the training to include this functionality change. And I then have put in here the changes that have been made. If for some reason you aren't able to see the changes in the module, it may be because you have taken the module before. If you have taken the module for certification in 303, I recommend you take it in 303A because then you'll be able to see the changes. If you've taken 303A before, you may have to clear your cache and then return and look for the changes, or take the training in a different browser. And so, and then we work to try to overwrite courses back a few months, but those may be the steps that you need to take. But again, this lists what has been changed so that you're aware and can go back and review them individually in that module. This is the same for these other modules. It tells you which module was changed. It's assessment content module, module 11 and module 12, and it says what has been changed. So you can go back and review it. Other changes not in the CFD. Users have been unable to delete waiver providers and service plans since the July 1st release, and they were getting a message that said an error has occurred. Now with the changes with the release, waiver providers can be deleted from support plans if they're not needed. Managed care all data reports were sunsetted on August 23rd, and MCOs are now using the Snowflake application exclusively. And so the all data reports will no longer be available in MnCHOICES. So there's also a new way of documenting for assessment time. And so this came as a result of the County State Work Group and DHS working together. And so there is on the Help Center a guide called Tracking Assessment Completion Time Policy and Procedures. And it started as of September 1st, and it's for all referrals September 1st or later. And so we are repurposing the assessment details to include all of the time to complete an assessment. The other piece to know, we made some recent adjustments. We created a corrected copy, and the pieces that changed in the policy section, it had read completion time for every assessment will be tracked, and we changed it to completion time for every assessment and listed the assessments because there seemed to be some confusion around which assessments were included. And then on the procedure section, there was a change for removing appeals, and so you'll see the strike through in it as well. And that corrected version has, I believe, been uploaded. And then again, we made changes to TrainLink for 303 Module 3 to talk about assessment interview time so that new assessors in particular will see new information and won't be looking at old information. So let's talk through assessment enhancement and defects that were changed due to the August 23rd release. The assessment summary. The name of the healthcare provider was printing in the assessment summary, but now it will no longer print, so you won't see it display the name of the healthcare provider and their address in the printout, in the assessment summary printout anymore. The assessment screening documents, work supports weren't shown in the MnCHOICES assessment for vocational supports on the DD screening. For now, with those changes for a child 12 years old and younger, the work supports MnCHOICES assessment item for vocational field 35 will display a score of 99 unknown. So it's been corrected. So in the services that support me heading, managed care could not add new non-enrolled providers who deliver direct delivery services and purchase item services, because there wasn't a provider type for them built into the application. And now there is. With that change, they can put the term managed care in the search and hit search. And then it'll give them a bunch of options for types of specialty codes that are available, but it'll allow managed care to be added as a service. Changes that were made, services that support me, create a service that was, oh yeah, so you're now creating a service that was listed in the MCO waiver provider list. So what will happen is you'll pick the provider name, MCO, and then you'll indicate the type of service. And when you do that, then that way everyone will know what it is. So in this case, we put a bus pass was used to support employment. So we just I put it in support instructions for you to see, to indicate what that is, because it'll just say managed care as a provider name, and then you'll need to give some clarification on what that managed care service was. For the services and supports heading, only one entry showed up in the print for when it was modification for assistive technology. So instead of printing all of the assistive technology, it was only printing one. And now with the change, all entries will display in the print view for a user's modification, assistive technology, and remote support entries. So now you'll see them all instead of only seeing one. For the elderly waiver residential rate tool, it wasn't counting the hours per day and the hours per week towards the 50-hour minimum monthly total needed to qualify for 24-hour CL. With the changes made, the hours per day and the hours per week entered in the rate tool will count the 50 hours minimum monthly total. So it will calculate correctly. So let's look at the new additions for the CFD. In the context icon, it requires a county to be entered with the contact address. But if it's a province, what you need to do is you need to select lives with the person and the address and enter the contact address under the note that the address includes a province, and cross out the contact address on the assessment summary printout. So as you can see here, I wrote 123 Welcome Street, Emo, Ontario, 123456. So just so you can see. For health insurance, might not populate when a person is covered by medical assistance. The state administrated Medicaid program in the health insurance icon in the person record. So you'll confirm the person is eligible for MA if it's not already listed in the insurance section. And then you'll submit a MnCHOICES help desk ticket requesting the health insurance record is updated, and then the help desk will repair that for you. MnCHOICES assessment. The system requires an option to be selected for additional information provided and discussed as needed in the assessment and program eligibility, or sorry, program acknowledgement section to meet the completion requirements. If neither of the I know me forms nor the forms in the additional information provided and discussed as needed are provided to the person, you can just check other and enter NA into the text field, and this gives you a workaround for that option. So in the support plan, in the care team section of the support plan for MCO, MnCHOICES assessment, and the support plan HRA, the system will not save the date support plan shared in the revised plan if a user selects no and doesn't enter a date in the original plan. So the original plan is affecting the revised. So the user has to handwrite the date that the support plan was shared with the primary doctor or support plan team member or the support team member. So just so you know. For services that support me, for individuals using CFSS needing to choose a consultation service provider, a consultation service provider is not currently available to select in the support plan as a service provider. And so then these are the steps to take. So you'll add a service, you'll choose people and community organizations that support me, you'll add the organization name and support description, and then you can enter which one of these best fits that consultation service provider. So I'm going to quick look at your pre-submitted questions, and then we will move to opening up time for questions for you. What to attach to a person's record. So there's a list of what to attach to a person record in each of the practice guides. So please go ahead and look there. And then if you're wondering about naming conventions, we also in the Help Center Smart Guide Person Attachments, it lists some naming conventions for you to use, which will help keep a person's record, their attachments icon clean. So are cleaner or easier to follow for everyone if it's kind of follows the standard naming convention. So you can find that naming convention there, and what to attach to a person record you will find in the practice guides. Support plan view. So we've been asked questions about what does active mean. You just need to know active doesn't affect anyone's ability to work in the system, and we really want you to concentrate on the form status. Is it in progress, assessment complete? And the plan dates versus the form is active or not active. From the DHS audit perspective, we're going to look at the date the plan is moved from plan approved status, and that's when DHS considers the support plan active. So, don't mind the active implication on FEI system and how it looks at it. Instead, pay attention to what DHS will consider an active plan. So I want to make sure that I leave time for questions. And I'm sorry, folks, I can't see kind of who's here and not here in our new form of WebEx. And so, Rakia, I know you are responsible for calling on people. And so I am ready to have you go ahead and call on people so that we can answer their questions.
All right, so we have our first question comes from Emily Gerard. Your line is unmuted.
Regarding the slide about how transition plans are not revisable and you need to open a new one, do split screen or whatever, copy paste, is there any discussion about that being reconsidered? I know that in the long run, transition plans aren't intended to be used all of the time, and that's fine. But right now, when case managers are going to need to go in and make transition plans to run new rates and things like that for plans that were previously done in 1.0, not being able to revise a transition plan causes a lot of unnecessary work for case managers, and they're already really swamped. So I'm just wondering if there's any ability to look at that not being able to revise a transition plan, at least for the next 12 months or so until everybody is fully into revision assessments.
Hi, this is Victoria. Yes, there is discussions happening with our vendor. However, we do not have any kind of a timeline on if it's going to be approved or if it's going to be fixed. But they are aware there's discussions happening in regards to this. So
Okay.
more to come.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question comes from Sharon Oliver. Your line is unmuted.
Evaluation of providers. When we complete that form in the new MnCHOICES, it does not give the values needed to enter into MMIS. I'm wondering when that will be corrected so we can more easily get those values versus having to complete the form in MnCHOICES and then truly duplicate it onto the old form to get the values to enter into MMIS.
So am I correct in thinking that you're talking about the LTSS evaluation of provider? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, we complete that and then it doesn't show any values. We have no way to pull the values in order to do the data entering when we enter into MMIS. And so we have to pull those answers over into the old document to get the values.
Teresa, I guess I can take this one. This is Rakia. I don't know exactly when we sent out an e-list about the LTSS improvement tools, but we did provide guidance that when you transition your work into the revised application, that the evaluation questions are not required to complete. We have not yet fully implemented those questions. And so if you've, again, completed or transitioned all your work into the revision, you are not required to complete those evaluations. And we will be communicating out when those questions are available for lead agencies to begin completing them.
So for the time being, we still need to, because MMIS won't allow us to approve the MMIS without those.
Yeah, we'll put the link to the e-list in the chat because there are instructions on what you need to enter in MMIS to bypass those fields.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next question comes from Katie. Your line is unmuted.
Do you have to wait until DHS approves the screening to move it into like the assessment approved? Because a lot of our assessments now are needing DHS approval. So in order to do that, we'd have to wait for the CFR to approve it, then it goes to DHS. And I don't want to delay the process in them doing their support plan. I just didn't know what the correct way is to do that. Do we approve it as soon as we are finalized with our assessment, or do we wait until that final DHS approval?
I would not wait for the final DHS approval. You're fine too. When your assessment activity is closed, that was a step that we put in place for later integration with MMIS. So for right now, don't worry about waiting for those documents to get approved and move through their system in MMIS. MMIS is its own thing. You can approve it and close it in MnCHOICES when your work is done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
The next question comes from Lane. Your line is unmuted.
About someone who we assess in like a customized living, we do an initial assessment and they're still waiting for the financial piece to get approved. So we end up doing an eligibility update. We've been unable to backdate the effective date from if they need it to go back to like the initial assessment date. And our workaround has just been to print off the screening doc and hand correct it and scan that in, but is there a different way to do that?
We'll just give the subject matter experts a moment to collect their thoughts and they will respond back to you.
So we have that response in the current functionality document, what we've been calling the CFD today, our short term for the current functionality document. So go ahead, who else was going to speak?
No, sorry, Beth. I was unmuting the same time as you were. This is Amy Alexander. I was just going to say what Beth said. There is a workaround, and it's basically what you described, but it's in the current functionality document. But yeah, it's basically what you describe as you put the date that you need to in order to not get the error in MnCHOICES, and then when you enter it in MMIS, then you can correct that date. And it's in the queue to get fixed in a future release.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Melissa Mack. Your line is unmuted.
Some clarification on the outages that are starting in October that are changing to 4:30 on Thursdays, it says. Is that going to be every Thursday, or is it only certain Thursdays where we'll get notice?
So it's part of the outage schedule. And so let me just go there for partner link, please. So where I am, I'm in partner link on the landing page. I'm going to the mentors page and I'm going to go down to the bottom and find the release and outage schedule. And so it's just these dates that occurs on a Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you knew how to find them as well.
Okay, so the next question comes from Erin. Your line is unmuted.
About the appeal rights, are those going to be added back to the assessment summary in a future release or no?
This is Heather. Yes, they will be added back on to the assessment summary. Something happened where they just fell off during our last release, and we are working with our vendor to get them added back on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, there are. The next question comes from Becky. Your line is unmuted.
Do with the tracking time for assessments. Right now that is located at the kind of the setup part of the assessment, and we have to put it in order to actually run the assessment and have it moving the status to MMIS pending. That has to be completed. But really, it's a task that we complete when everything's done and we are moving to MMIS approved. Is there a way to put it after the screening document or at the end of the assessment, or be able to complete that when we're in MMIS pending so that we don't have to go back and put it in an editable form and kind of go through all the steps once again? Just for workflow, that would make more sense. And just a question whether it's a future fix, and if not, a request that it be made so.
So I would suggest to you, if you could please, if you'd submit a help desk request form and just put that you're asking for a future enhancement, and then put down what you described, and then we will move it forward.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Beltrami County. Your line is unmuted.
I didn't get a chance to put my hand down in time because actually the last one kind of was what my question was going to be as well. But the kind of was the same concern. You know, we have kind of the suggestion is to move the assessment forward to the final status. And then if we have to do like a support plan and everything, then open that up. So that sort of documentation that we're doing is all after we've already supposed to have closed the assessment, which has the time to put how much time it took us, but we're doing paperwork after that's already closed. So I just have a concern of that. Like if we're kind of just going to say, well, this is my average time and kind of make it as close as we can, but it might not be totally accurate all the time. So.
So for you, if you would like to, you could put it in the help center as an enhancement request, and then if you specifically have an idea on what you're thinking about, you could put what you think what the answer would be. If you don't, but you want to at least express what your concern is, you could do that, and then we would review it with the other one as well. We'd take them both in as one enhancement request.
So then for now, do we kind of just do our best guess and fudge it?
So this is Lori. The person that just asked that question, could you repeat that question, please?
The one that I just said or the one at the beginning?
The one you just said.
Is our best thing moving forward if we don't have an answer yet, if we sent in the tickets, is our best guess just to guess as best as we can how much time the rest of the paperwork is going to take us and budget, or?
Yeah, because specifically what you're saying, if I was hearing you correctly, is you will put the status to approved in MMIS and start the assessment work, finish up the assessment paperwork, and now you won't have access to the interview time information anymore. And so you're asking, should you estimate it at that point? Because you're going to close it and work on support plan, but you'll still be doing paperwork. That's
Correct.
your question.
Yeah.
Teresa, for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate, by the way, I should back up and introduce myself. This is Laurie Miller, and I have the wonderful privilege of working with the team that's answering your questions. I supervise the assessment and support planning team. And I know that this process is new that we're introducing because we are changing for you how we are asking to collect this time. We are now looking for total assessment time and not just the in-person interview time. So yes, please continue to send in your questions on the help desk ticket because that's going to help us refine this and put in any enhancements that we may need. But in the meantime, that is going to be the best option that we have, is to have you guesstimate as close as you can on what you feel that additional paperwork is going to take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do just want to add, because you had mentioned the support plan, that for people who do support plans as a certified assessor, that time should not be included. We do want to divide out the assessment time from the support planning side.
Thank you, Liz, for that clarification, because I was going to refer them back to the instructions that were sent out.
Okay, is I guess my only thing, because that wasn't in the like exceptions part of the bulletin, that if we are assessors who do support plan, that wasn't like a part of that original email that got sent out. So we didn't know that that was supposed to not be counted.
Yeah, this is assessment activity only. So the moment it moves to support planning, we are not tracking that time.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what I put up on the screen for you to see is in the Help Center, there's a procedure tracking assessment completion time. If you go ahead and open that, that will help provide you more guidance on what is included and not included in that document.
Okay.
All right, the next question comes from Katie. Your line is unmuted.
Just want to go back to the new change with the LTSS signature being electronic. With that new change, we no longer can enter a screening document until we get that signature. And so this week I had an assessment where the guardians were remote and I met with the individual in person. So I completed the assessment and I couldn't enter that screening document until I received that signature back. So that's going to delay some processes.
This is Heather. I can take that one. So you're referring to the assessment and program acknowledgement screen and the signatures screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the assessment and program acknowledgement screen, that is required for those completion requirements. However, the signatures screen is not. So you'll want to complete the assessment and program acknowledgement screen with the person or with the guardian. And then if you're not collecting those signatures during the assessment, maybe you have to mail out that form. You can do that later, but you can still access your screening document and move forward with your assessment into additional statuses. And then you just go to the print menu within the assessment, and then you'll click on the assessment and program acknowledgement, and then you can print the actual the form, and it will have lines for the person and or their legal representative to sign. Once you've received that back from the person or the legal rep, you'll go back into the signatures section. You can do that when the form is in any status. You will click on the method of obtaining signatures as handwritten. And then from there, you can attach your document. So you can save it as a file and then attach it there within the signature section.
And I did all of that. I just couldn't print the DD screening document to enter until that signature was received back.
So are you getting an error message?
It's saying I can't view it because all the assessment documentation isn't completed. All those check marks need to be to be completed.
Yeah, so in the assessment and program acknowledgement screen, you do need to complete all of the responses in order for your completion requirements to be met for the assessment. You don't need to obtain the signature, but you do need to go through those acknowledgements.
I believe I did, and I still had the error, but I can check back again.
Okay. Yeah, if
Well,
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and Heather, if she does still have the issue where it's requiring the signature, then would we have her just turn it in on a help desk ticket?
Yeah, yep, you can certainly do that, but please go back to that assessment and program acknowledgement. Just make sure all of those responses are marked. You can check your completion requirements to see that you have that green check with the circle for that screen, the assessment and program acknowledgement, and then hit save. You know, make sure you're hitting save so it captures your responses.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Lauren. Your line is unmuted.
The support plan. Can you just clarify when we are doing our reassessment in 2.0, so we used it last year, we're doing our second assessment in there. When we go to do the support plan, are we supposed to create a new support plan, or are we revising the other support plan we had created the year before?
I believe we had that answer in our last office hours slides.
Can you repeat the first part of your question? We missed it.
Yeah, so, and we had some confusion at our county because we thought we had heard two things here. So that's why I'm asking. So if I did an assessment in 2.0 last year, and I just have now completed my reassessment in 2.0 for the same person last month or whatever, when I am going to do the support plan, am I revising my support plan from last year redoing the dates, keeping all that same information, or am I to go in and create a new support plan for reassessment?
So this question, right, Beth? Support plan at renewal?
You
Yeah, I
can
think
go
Liz is
in
going to
and,
answer it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can go in and revise your last year's support plan. You would use the revised functionality and you would choose annual/reassessment. If you choose to create it from scratch, you also have that option, but you don't have to do that. You can go in, use revise, pick annual reassessment. Oh, thank you. Teresa's showing that screen right now.
Okay, so it sounds like we can do either option is fine and both work. It's certainly less work if you just revise the plan from the previous year, if that works for you.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Victoria, and I just want to reiterate what Liz says. If you're going to use the revised functionality for an annual or reassessment, you need to choose annual or reassessment so you can gather the person's signatures again.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yep.
That is all I have.
The next question is from Aaron. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, yeah, I had a question about ACEW cases when we're completing the support plan. Revision isn't allowing us to prorate the budget when a service span is less than a year. We were able to do this in 1.0. And so it doesn't allow us to prorate it, and it auto-populates a budget of 1 year, and we're not able to revise it. I was wondering, is this going to be fixed in a future enhancement?
So somebody did already send this in as a help desk ticket. Perhaps it was you. It is something that we are considering looking at. It's not that it doesn't prorate the time. It does prorate support plan times, but it doesn't do it down to the date, to the
Yeah.
day, I should say. So if there's a partial month, it is included in there. But it's something that we are looking into.
Okay. Okay. Should we submit it as a request for a future enhancement or not necessarily?
Well, it actually has been submitted
Oh,
as
it
a
has.
future.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank
So
you
you
so
don't
much.
have to do that again. Yes.
Got
You're
it.
welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The next question comes from Sarah Hickman. Your line is unmuted.
Just wondering if you could clarify when it comes to documenting the time with the direction. Did I read right that we're supposed to document if there's the time for prepping for an appeal and doing an appeal?
We removed here, I was going to bring this back up. Sorry, I was just going to try to make this faster. Appeal has been removed.
Oh, that's good news. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Sorry, I was trying to find it and talk at the same time, and I'm not succeeding.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, right here. So we removed appeals from time tracking.
Okay, the next question comes from Susie. Your line is unmuted.
Making sure, I guess, is the HRA assessments, they are not part of the timed, the interview time assessments that we have to record?
Correct. It's not in the list of, this is the list of MnCHOICES
Okay.
assessments.
Okay.
And if I spoke out of turn, Smee, please correct me.
You're right, Teresa. That question doesn't appear in the HRA form, so you're right. The next question comes from Allison. Your line is unmuted.
example of a particular service and why we would use that managed care organization as a waivered provider. I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around that a little bit more.
So your question is, when would you select that managed care choice? I was going to see. I think it lists. I'm going to bring this back over. See if I can make this a little smaller and this one a little bit bigger so you can see it. So it provides the list of codes, which to me is kind of the list on why you should use it or what you could use it for. So it has specialized equipment, transportation, mileage. So if you're paying mileage, transitional services.
So this is so that MCOs can authorize direct delivery services. So anything that you need to do for a direct delivery service or purchased item service, this is how you would add it to the service, the support plan.
Okay, yeah, I did look at the slides in the description. I guess I was just looking for a little more of a example, but I can bring it back to our team and we can take a look at it a little bit closer.
Okay, and there we have a CBSM page on the direct delivery services too. It's the waiver/AC service provider overview. And then it has all those services listed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Liz.
The next question comes from Jennifer Thering. Your line is unmuted.
Morning. Going back to the reassessments through the support plans if you hit revise. And so we're coming up for the 1 year doing the reassessment. One thing I have noticed is that the date will not clear out for the doctor being sent from, we have to actually export it out as a Word and then change it physically. And then all the dates from the goals still are there from the previous one. Now I'm not doing I'm doing plan revision, reassessment, not plan revision. So I just wanted to know, were you guys aware of that? Because I didn't see that on the current functionality. But all the dates are getting cleared out for the services, but the date to the doctor and the dates in the goals don't zero out.
Hi, Jennifer. Yes, we are recently aware of this. Our vendor, more importantly, is aware of it, and this should be fixed very, very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question comes from Lindsay. Your line is unmuted.
Assessors or even mentors will in the future be able to change the status of assessments versus right now we just have one supervisor. Like if you complete your assessment and need to go back and make changes.
So are you speaking specifically reopening assessment, or are you talking about moving from one status to the next?
Well, one status to the next once it's incomplete. Or MMIS. Emma, now I'm
Yeah, it's okay. I know where you're headed. So
yeah,
there is in the practice guide, just for reference for assessment, is the list of the statuses in order, and one of the last statuses before approved in MMIS includes a drop down for clarification. And if you pick it, it will move the assessment back to to the status in progress complete, so work can be redone. And the question that you're asking is, can anyone else besides an assessor do it? And I was going to look up and see if a support staff had that role, and how I would know that is I would look in the help center and I would look at the roles and permissions document to see. So, but I just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
So are you saying, so as an assessor, once I have an assessment in, I should have had this pulled up, incomplete or MMIS complete status, I can't move it. Only our supervisor can? I can't move it to like reopen it if I want to edit it?
Nope, I'm not saying that.
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
Nope. I'm trying to get to something that I can show you the list of statuses in order so you can just see that. So
I just want to be able to reopen it once it's in that status and not have to press
when it's in a complete status, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Teresa, this is Amy Alexander. I was right now we have that just designated as a supervisor role to be able to reopen assessments that are closed because we want some consultation, to be happening at lead agencies to make sure that it's an appropriate thing to reopen the assessment. We used to do that and have people come to the MnCHOICES policy folks, and we delegated that now to supervisors. But I don't think at this point. We've considered opening it up to other roles, but if you want to submit a request, we can talk about that and, get it in the queue for something that we could consider in the future.
And is the request specifically for reopening, or is it after it's been improved by MMIS is the question that I was having.
So once as in the assessor, once I have it in the status approved by MMIS, I can't do anything with it.
Correct. Okay, that's what I want a clarification on. Okay, thank you. So then, yes, Amy's answer stands.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Hillary. Your line is unmuted.
If you can hear me.
We can.
Okay. So at our agency, we do a lot of like straight PCA assessments, and now we'll be transitioning to the CFSS assessments. So I just want to make sure that we're wrapping our head around it correctly. So the process that we're understanding is that we would complete the assessment, and we then enter a service agreement with the consultation provider, send it to the consultation provider, they send it back to us, and then we enter the full service agreement. So we enter it in twice, or do we enter in the consultation provider after they've met with the consultation provider?
Well, goodness, I really want to make sure CFSS staff is here for our next meeting. We can talk through this a little bit more, but your first question or your first response is the workflow that we've worked out. So you'll authorize a consultation services provider, they'll start doing their work, and then you'll authorize the rest of the services based upon the service delivery plan that was developed. Just the information that needs to go into MMIS on the support plan, and that's your workflow.
Okay. And does the consultation provider, it goes on a line item on the service agreement, but does that also go into MMIS?
It does. It does. So that way they can start billing their services prior to and being paid regularly for their services as they're developing the plan. So that's the process that was developed.
Okay, so then with that, then we'll do the assessment. We'll send it off to the consultation provider, get it back from the consultation provider. On our service agreement, we're going to put the consultation provider as well as the CFSS agency and those line items. And then the start date would be the date of the assessment or the date of the new service agreement if they're a reassessment. Does that sound right?
Yes, but with one correction, you're not going to send a consultation services provider anything other than a referral, or like a referral help them connect with the person to get services started. They will have access to MnCHOICES. They'll have read-only access, so they can come in and read the reports and the information that we have. Your assessment, they'll have access to all of that. So we're in process of onboarding all those folks as well. So they'll be here for you so you won't have to exchange information other than making sure as an assessor you're following through with that referral for the person to assist them as needed. in connecting with our consultation services provider.
No, that's perfect. That really explains a lot. So we were just trying to kind of wrap our head around different things and then see if we needed additional MMIS training for entering in and how we would go about that. So I'm glad that I asked the question today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Jennifer Thering. Your line is unmuted.
I think I forgot to put it down. I'm sorry.
Okay, sounds good. Then the next question comes from Katie Benson. Your line is unmuted.
There is the ability to reopen an HRA once it's in a completed status.
So your question was, is there a way to reopen an HRA when it's completed status? We missed like your audio didn't catch the first part of your sentence.
Correct. That was my question.
Yep, is there? Yep.
Yeah, so right now we don't have the ability to reopen an HRA once the status is in completed status or discarded, but we have submitted a ticket already and that will allow users to reopen an HRA form, so you can expect to see that enhancement soon.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Jessica. Your line is unmuted.
A follow-up question. Can you hear me?
Yep, just fine.
Okay, sorry, I got a pop-up saying I was muted. Just a follow-up question regarding the consultation services service agreement. Would that, for somebody who's currently receiving CFSS, whether they're, just state plan or receiving it through a waiver, would that get added to their current service agreement? Because we want them to start working with the person prior to the start of the new service agreement? Or can they just kind of bill for services that were done in the future? Does that make any sense what I'm saying? So we want them to start working with the person right away. And if we're doing the assessment, a month or 60 days prior to the start of their new service agreement, I'm just wondering about the timelines. Do we put it on the current active service agreement so they can start working with them right away? Or does that go on the one for the next year?
So for reassessments, you will, but I want you to send that question in. So when somebody's already on CFSS, but because there's going to be this curve of people accessing CFSS, I want you to send that question in so that I make sure that I'm getting you the right answer. I know that you'll be able to add CFSS, or if you need to add additional CFSS to a support plan, once the person's already established on CFSS, but it's that beginning question that I want to make sure I have the right answer to, because I'm not sure that we can modify a type B at this point. So it might be that it's not until that type B span ends, but I really want home care to answer that question for you to make sure that we're going to get you the right answer.
Send it into the help desk?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, will do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Megan. Your line is unmuted.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. I'm just looking for clarification. Can we go back to the preparing for sunsetting legacy systems, slides 4 of 8?
Mm-hmm. I will grab it right now and pull it over, and we'll get the 4 of 8.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm going to put that in, actually. Let's see. Sorry, I like to do it this way because then you don't have to watch quite so much scrolling. Gotta always figure out what order we're in. That's that. Preparing for sunsetting. Got it. Okay.
Okay,
There.
so when it talks about person's record is created in MnCHOICES revision. I guess I just want clarification on what you mean by that. Do we need the person added like to our casework tile or our work
No.
group tile, I should
So
say?
what's happening is people are completing, let's say, their CSSP and their CSP, but they've never added the person to MnCHOICES. Okay, we'll just use that as an example. Because the person doesn't exist in MnCHOICES, there's nothing to attach that PDF to, right?
Okay.
So all we're asking you to do is create the person record in MnCHOICES so that when your closed documents are made into PDFs, there's something to attach them to. So it's just that basic. There isn't a person in revised MnCHOICES, there's nothing to attach the record to.
So we don't need them on our caseload tile. We should just search
Nope.
the person to make sure that they're in there.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
and
That's
then
good.
yep, and then in those reports, it'll explain that, after you've created that person, just double check their MMIS number and make sure that it matches legacy. And it gives the instructions on how to do that. And the only reason I'm trying to do it off in the fly and I know I can't. The only reason why that is because if there's a mismatch, then it needs to go to the help desk for them to fix it for you.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, the next question comes from Nisa Black. Your line is unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My question is about the reassessments that we're going to be starting in October for CFSS eligibility. When we do our reassessments in October for those 12/1 start dates, are we supposed to be authorizing 3 months of the person's current eligibility for their CSG or their PCA, or are we authorizing 3 months of their new eligibility that we are determining in October? So if a person had an increase, when we do their assessment in October, say they had an increase in their eligibility, maybe more hours or their CSG budget would go up, are we doing 3 more months of that new number, or are we just extending 3 months of what they currently have right now?
So that question I'm going to have you send in. I apologize that I can't just give you an answer, but that's complicated in the beginning set of CFSS, and I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to get the wrong information out. So if you could send it in, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Teresa, we only have one more hand raised, and that is Joe. Your line is unmuted.
Just wanting to piggyback off of that, not the last question, but the one before that. When entering in people into the new revised tool to ensure that all legacy documents transfer over, does that person profile need to be in the completed status, or is it able to have just the the name, making sure all of the either the PMI or the social is in there? And so, for example, on your screen under profile, that completion requirements, does that have to be completed, or is that able to be uncompleted for all of the documentation to transfer over?
So we have not gotten instructions that it has to be completed. It's just having the person record available, because what will happen is once the person record has been created, then the SWINDEX information will come over, the SW index information will come over, PMI and Social Security will come over, and the completion requirements should not have to be met.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Rakia, we're just about at time. Time has went fast today. There's been great questions. Sorry, I'm trying to, if you see my mouse moving, I was trying to get to my, trying to get back to my slide and my mouse is not there, wanting to move. So what I would like to do is kind of finish off for today and then close out today. So this PowerPoint will be available on the DSD archive page. If you have heard terms related to to the divisions or the e-list. It also talks in here about how to subscribe to an e-list, gives you the link to partner link if you don't have it, and then also tells you where the e-list announcements live for both DSD and for the Aging and Adult Services division, where they live. And so with that, I would like to end today's call and just say thank you very much to all of you. This is great conversation. We appreciate our time together. Thank you for submitting items in for enhancement when you have them and for questions that we feel we need to spend more time discussing. This just ensures that we provide you the best answer possible. So again, thanks everyone, and we look forward to our next office hours. Anna, you can stop recording, and I am going to go off.